Hey, Foot Clan, it's showtime.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Redraft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, my goodness! You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, Foot Clan.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's going to be a good show.
Tuesday, October 31st. I can
Happy Halloween!
barely hear myself
You can barely
due
hear.
to this costume.
You can barely see.
It's like an echo. I feel like I'm talking in a large atrium.
And you also have a nose whistle
And
that
I
I
have a
really
nose
hope
whistle.
is picked up on the show a few times.
I'm also blind.
If you don't know what we're talking about, it's Halloween.
If you've never heard of it,
it's
every October 31st.
catching on. It's a new thing
Halloween.
happening this year. But you got to go to the YouTubes, youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers, and
Yeah.
see the problems that we are all experiencing right now. And
Hey, I love your costume.
oh,
Andy,
Yeah.
I love your costume.
That makes
love
you
your costumes.
one of us. We have such a jam-packed show that we
It's a
cannot
gr-
focus on the lore of.
It's a great show today.
Also, I am very fat. I've got a big Ben Roethlisberger helmet situation going on.
like a burnt marshmallow.
I
Oh,
Just oozing out.
oh man, squeeze out of that mask.
oh, it's terrible. I need to tuck the chins into back behind.
Oh, welcome everybody. We are.
The judge is here too, by the way.
Yeah.
Judge Giamatti. We have waivers on the show today. We have Monday Night Football. We'll talk through what happened last night. We've got news and notes. We've got
Trade
the
deadline
madness. That is the trade deadline and things that may be happening. All right, I got to take these gloves off. That may be happening on the actual show today. We have a trick-or-treat segment talking about some fantasy playoffs. Oh, and we have streaming quarterbacks.
Whoa. It's 2 hours today.
Let's
Oh,
get
my goodness.
Megalodon.
All right, let's get into the quick thoughts from last night's game. 29-19, the Chiefs take out the Broncos. Broncos are reeling at the quarterback position.
Yes.
There's talk of Brock or Paxton Lynch, who just returned to practice, taking over for Simeon. Where are you guys with this entire offense and the upside? I mean, we've seen with Indianapolis, now with Green Bay, when the quarterback situation hits the skids, so to speak, which is actually the new nickname for Trevor Simeon, the skids.
Ooh.
It's not a good nickname. 19 for 36, 52 rating, 197, 3 touchdowns.
Nope.
QBR 43.
3 interceptions.
What
Yeah,
did I
the
say? 3
interception.
touchdowns?
That was in his dreams.
Yeah.
The decision making of Trevor Simeon is just gone off the cliff. In the first few games, he at least looked competent. He's going to make mistakes because he's Trevor Simeon. But I don't know how you move forward with him if you're the Denver Broncos. If you want any kind of chance to compete, you're 3-4, so you're not totally out of the wild card situation. Your division hopes are probably toast.
The next few games are really tough on them as far as NFL.
But
the
what do they-
Philadelphia
what do they do?
Eagles and the New England Patriots.
The last report I read was that it would most likely be Paxton Lynch. Do you honestly? I watched Paxton Lynch play in the preseason.
He's terrible.
He couldn't handle preseason defense.
Yeah, that's called phoning in the season.
Yeah, if you put Paxton
Yeah.
in.
The
So would
irony
you
is-
put Brock in?
Brian Hoyer was cut by the 49ers, and we're going to get into tons of news. Brian Hoyer would be your best option in Denver, don't you think? Or do you just want the conservative run
Hey,
game approach?
Batman, you got to talk into your microphone.
Am I not?
Well, you keep
Oh, you
leaning
gave
back.
away his costume.
Oh, sorry.
I'm leaning back because my nose is whistling. We're trying to offer a high-quality Halloween product.
Well, Brian Hoyer, I think we'll get into Hoyer, but he's going to end up somewhere else, absolutely.
Yeah.
But just running through the rest of this game, the receivers for Denver, I had hoped for Demaryius Thomas, 5 for 66, not the end of the world, but certainly not what you were hoping for against the Chiefs, who brought Amari Cooper back to life. The running back situation for the Broncos is interesting.
It's so dumb to me because, you know, Andy and I, similar to how you and I, Mike,
Yes.
we argue over Melvin Gordon. We were arguing last night as we watched this game over C.J. Anderson because I'm still a C.J. Anderson believer. Andy is not so much. And every time Andy would speak bad about C.J. Anderson,
he'd something
rip
good.
off another 8, 9, 10-yard run. He looked great, and he still got the bulk of the carries. He got 15 carries. The next best, I believe, was 7. But he needs more because the other guys, in my opinion, weren't getting it done. I mean,
Booker was getting it done, and Booker got the – I believe it was from the 6, and he scored.
Yes, Booker looks good, but he needs to be, in the role he's in.
Right.
We saw when he took over.
Fantasy owners cannot trust C.J. Anderson or this offense. He's been single digits 3 of the last 5 weeks. He may be the best runner, but he's the best runner on a bad offense right now that has 3 running backs that all flashed last night. And he's a running back 2-3 cusp guy. That's what he is.
Yeah, that is what he is. He's a guy that
and that's not what you wanted.
Gets 20 carries. It's certainly disappointing after the first 2 weeks where, he was averaging nearly 100 yards and 22.5 carries a game.
But for a guy you can't trust, C.J. Anderson, running back 24 in a half-point PPR, that's a very startable running back. He outscored Kareem Hunt, which, no, I'm not worried about Hunt, but he outscored Forte. He outscored Doug Martin.
That's what a 2-3 means, Mike.
Yeah,
but I'm saying, but for
he's
you to
running
say,
back 24. You
right,
said,
but
and you can't
just
trust him because he's put up single digits 3 of the last 5 weeks.
Right, but
8
for
carries,
a guy,
9 carries,
you can't
10
trust
carries.
him. You have to start him.
You
don't have to
might
start him.
need to start him. I am a believer, but I don't think you absolutely have to start him. A lot of that ranking comes from week 2 when he had over 30 fantasy
No, I'm talking
points.
about this week. This
week he was okay. 15 for 78 on the ground, caught another ball for 7 yards.
Right. In our format, he was 10.5 points. That was fine. You're not excited?
No, but you have to start him.
The other side
I'd
of the
rather
ball,
start James White.
The other side of the ball, you were super happy if you were a Travis Kelce owner, and if you were a Tyreek Hill or a Kareem Hunt owner,
or an Alex Smith owner.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean,
you were
Alex
disappointed.
Smith was disappointing. Kareem Hunt, very disappointing, and Tyreek Hill, devastating. He did very little as a wide receiver, and he threw an interception.
He did even less as a quarterback.
Kareem Hunt.
Don't worry about it.
Not only don't worry about it. To me, after this week, I would say Kareem Hunt going up against one of the best run Ds in the league in Denver, and Dak Prescott having that torrential downpour in Washington. Those are my 2 targets this week. If I can steal them from a team who is afraid that this is the new normal, I certainly will be trying.
This is the first game of the entire year that Kareem Hunt did not have over 100 yards.
Right.
In all between receiving and running back. Well, I don't think anybody thinks he sucks.
Right,
I think the majority of people are going to stick with him. But I would target him.
The Broncos have shut down Zeke, Shady, Melvin Gordon. I mean, it was the weird one was the Orleans Darkwa had a big game against them, but that was whatever, one game fine. But those are superstar running backs.
And Jay Ajayi next week.
You're predicting he will be shut down.
We'll talk about that later.
News and notes from around the league.
Much like Big Ben in a helmet, I am in a torture chamber right now. I cannot see.
Do you need me to take over?
No, you. Oh, what did I just do?
Welcome to the show. We've got a great show planned for you today.
I am a blind man flying a ship
here. I'll take
darkness.
Over.
No. I'm okay.
Delightful.
On Twitter, you can find us at the FF Ballers. There's my nose whistle. All right, let's move into the news and notes. Jay Ajayi, monster news this morning. You talk about going nuts. He's been traded to the Eagles for a 4th-round pick. Guys, this is monster news. If you're a Jay Ajayi owner, we had just hit the panic button. He struggled. Adam Gase apparently despises the man.
You're super happy if you're a Ajayi
you have
owner.
to be.
I was saying off air yesterday, count me as someone that would not be surprised if this week, this was before the trade,
right?
If Jay Ajayi gets 5 carries max, because I saw everything Adam Gase was saying as, look, I'm done with you. I mean, he left Ajayi, he left him away from a game week 1 last year, didn't even travel with the team. Ajayi, Adam Gase is the type that will send a message, and This is great news. You're going from one of the worst offensive lines in the league to one of the best.
The worst offenses, period.
Yeah,
not even just the
zero
line.
carries inside the 5-yard line this year for Jay Ajayi in Miami. The number one team in the NFL in inside the 5 carries is the Philadelphia Eagles.
But what are you guys expecting for the split of the carries? Because LeGarrette Blount is still there. He's been okay. Now, clearly, I mean, if you're going to give up a 4th-round pick, even though that doesn't sound like much to fantasy football players, NFL teams care about their 4th-round pick. To give it up for a running back,
I expect him.
It's going to be messy, or do you expect Jay Ajayi to come in and by next week kind of assert himself as the primary 1-2?
I believe he will absolutely assert himself as the primary back. He is a far better running back than LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette Blount's looked okay. He's gotten the job done, but clearly the Philadelphia Eagles are saying we need better. And I don't think they're happy with what Wendell Smallwood has done behind him. They've had some injuries to other guys, and they wanted to, not make Carson Wentz have to throw 650 times this year. So this coming week, it's going to be really hard. Week 1, you go against that aforementioned Denver Broncos run defense that has looked outstanding this year. Then you go from there to a bye week. So I don't think you're going to see Ajayi golden Philadelphia Eagle value until 3 weeks from now. But 3 weeks from now, I expect that Ajayi is a rock solid, RB1, maybe, top 15 if not running back, which was not going to happen with the Miami Dolphins. So as an Ajayi owner, you're thrilled.
I think you're just thrilled for a new opportunity because you had seen, you've heard this song being played this year. I'm not guaranteeing a top 15 player there. I think you have more opportunity, less volume, and
I think that's what Ajayi needs. Honestly,
you could be right, but he's been trying to hit the home run all year long. The offensive line's much better.
Last year when we were like, is this breakout real with Ajayi? And I went and I rewatched every single one of his snaps. The one thing that I found from Ajayi's running style is that every single time that he had a hole to run through, he picked up 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. He's a great head of steam runner. But if you could touch him in the backfield, he crumples as if he's, got no muscle in his body. And this year when you watch the Miami Dolphins, he's just been hit 2 yards behind the line, left, right, center, every play. And I think the Eagles will open up a hole on the majority of plays, and he'll take advantage of that.
Obviously, this hurts Blount's rest of the season significantly. Wendell Smallwood, he's out the door, basically, in terms of value. And like Jason said, the Denver game, then the bye week. We have so much to talk about on the show. We need to transition to Miami. Your money is on Kenyon Drake or Damian Williams?
Timeshare.
Kenyon Drake.
But yes,
the leader?
timeshare is not an answer.
Okay. I'm taking Kenyon Drake. I loved him coming out of college. Have not been proven right on that by any means yet.
Does it change in PPR versus standard league? Who would you take? I would take Drake in a standard league. I'm undecided on the other.
Yeah, I feel like I would pick up Williams in both.
I would pick up Drake in both, and that's not to say that I think he is for sure going to be the lead guy.
Right, he's better.
It's just if Damian Williams gets that job, and he is all of a sudden a workhorse for the Dolphins, which is worthy of picking up. I'm not saying it's not, even if you stink, which he does. Opportunity is king at the position. Pick him up, but with his lack of talent, sorry, Damian Williams' mother, and the lack of offensive production from Miami, I think you want that home run option in Drake, that chance that maybe this guy is really electric, can make his own plays happen. I don't see much from Damian Williams.
And for the record, Drake is second on the depth chart. Gase has already said he's second on the depth chart. He'll have a good opportunity, but it's not been good for Ajayi, so you're now splitting time, as Mike was alluding to.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that in the coming days and projecting this week's stats on Wednesday. All right, United States District Judge Catherine Fila has dissolved Ezekiel Elliott's temporary restraining order and denied his motion. Oh, my goodness. Do we know what is happening? Ezekiel Elliott now is suspended.
Well, so Ezekiel Elliott, once the ruling came out, he had 24 hours to appeal, which it would apparently appeal to the second. Is that the second district? I don't know. I don't speak legalese, but there is an opportunity for him to appeal, but if that doesn't happen or if that is shut down, and that's the court that shut down Tom Brady, that basically said you're suspended. So the suspension is coming regardless, if he files the appeal or not. So the Jerry Jones has already said that Alfred Morris will get the bulk of the carries. However, Rod Smith, Darren McFadden, they will still be involved. But so you guys had trended towards Alf being the pickup for the impending Zeke suspension. It sounds like that is the right way to go. However, I think that so you would rank them Morris, McFadden. Are you guys picking up Rod Smith?
I'm not picking up Rod Smith. No.
Okay. But you're picking up McFadden.
Yeah, I think it's still worth a flyer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Morris is the one that I think from a flashing on the screen mixed with what these comments are, has the best chance to surprise and help your team. But McFadden could very well, be heavily involved. And it's not a good situation.
He can, Morris is going to get the first crack, but McFadden could hot hand his way into being the starter, and he's also a much better pass catcher,
no doubt,
than Alfred Morris.
Yeah, Alf has the.
I'm a better pass catcher than Alfred Morris.
He's got the Jordan Howard going on. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Chris Hogan does not need surgery, but will miss a few weeks.
All right.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Fantasy football for everything the NFL has done to kind of, they like fantasy football, but they don't. They try to distance themselves. All of a sudden,
they're playing it.
They're playing fantasy football with all these trades, because I do not remember a situation like this ever happening. Like, I remember
it's still happening, by the way. There could be trades that have taken place by the time you're listening to this that we don't even know about.
Like, I remember many years ago when Brandon Marshall was traded, and you were like, holy crap, an NFL wide receiver actually got traded, a player of note? So this is madness. Jimmy Garoppolo is the future, or at least they're betting on him to be the future for the San Francisco 49ers. Brian Hoyer was released. It was I heard the talks that Brian Hoyer was they were initially working him into the deal, but then because of the way that the compensatory, did I say it right this time?
Yep. Proud of you.
Thank you. Those picks, they had to take him out of it. And essentially now the Patriots will sign Brian Hoyer to be the backup, because once again, the Patriots are smarter than your team.
T.Y. Hilton, Frank Gore, Dante Moncrief, all rumored to be traded or potentially traded by the Colts by the deadline. Vontae Davis as well. And so
I don't blame him.
I imagine one of those four at least will be traded before the deadline, which is today at what time?
I want to say
4
Eastern. Yeah.
So it's not far. Not far. Jarvis Landry's been told he won't be traded. He was another rumored name that could have gone somewhere. I was wondering if New England would snag him in light of the injuries they've had at the wide receiver position. Looks like he's staying put. Jordan Reed's going to be out in Week 9. Devonta Freeman is limited with a shoulder injury. Greg Olsen, Danny Woodhead could both come back to practice this week. We're hearing that Charles Clay is unlikely to play on Thursday for Buffalo. He'll be back with the team shortly, though. And then Jeremy Curley was suspended. Not a lot of relevance. I want to go ahead and
talk into the microphone.
Take just a second to thank Pristine Auction for sponsoring today's ridiculous show.
It's an extravaganza.
Look, you want to get nuts.
Whee!
The prices at Pristine Auction are nuts. Evan Ingram signed Giants jersey yesterday. Someone picked that up, $47.56.
Stealing it.
An absolute steal. Lev Bell Steelers signed mini helmet, $58.
What?
At pristineauction.com. Lev Bell signed Steelers jersey ended yesterday. It went for $69.43.
Congratulations.
So every single day,
plan out there.
Hundreds of daily auctions. An absolutely great resource. They are the leaders in the industry. They are exceptional when it comes to customer service and integrious guys over there. So you need to check them out. pristineauction.com, PRISTINE auction.com.
And we want to thank Pro Flowers for sponsoring the show. I love getting my wife a bouquet from Pro Flowers. I know these guys do as well. Because, fellas, fall is here. Fall is here, and you know what that means. Halloween, pumpkin spice, and the cinnamon cider roses are available over at proflowers.com. Their best-selling cinnamon cider roses are a great option for any fall occasion, or go with one of the classics like the 100 autumn blooms or a dozen autumn roses. You can't lose no matter which bouquet you send, because the Foot Clan, you're going to get 20% off any Pro Flowers unique bouquet of $29 or more. Just log on. You pick that exact date. They make it easy. They make scheduling this so easy. The flowers are guaranteed to stay fresh for at least 7 days or get your money back. To get 20% off all bouquets of $29 or more, go to proflowers.com. Use our code BALLERS at checkout. That's BALLERS. Proflowers.com, code BALLERS. Don't wait to make someone's day.
So we are going to do a special trick-or-treat segment, and that's going to be we're going to talk through some players and their playoff schedule and whether their performances now will relate to their performances later. We're going to get into the waivers first.
All right.
I want to cover the waivers first. Also, I apologize, Mike, for not talking to the microphone. I'm having some
You look ridiculous.
I'm having some
trouble.
memories. I know what this sounds like in my ears. This reminds me of the acoustics of the Batcave.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like trying to jam out in the Batcave.
It's hard to do a podcast in
It's
the
just
Batcave.
very echoey inside of that dark, dreary cave. By the way, that's where Jay Ajayi was. He was with me.
Oh, in the back
He
cave?
was banished to the Batcave, which is very similar to the doghouse.
Hey, you know what? If that's banishment, sign me up.
Yeah, he got banished to a 7-win team. So pretty nice.
Put me in, coach.
And by the way, with this costume, the answer is trick.
It's not a treat.
It's trick. Teams on bye this week: Chicago, Cleveland, the Chargers, Minnesota, New England, Pittsburgh. Now, Jason, you said that you forgot your change of clothes.
Oh, that is correct. I grabbed a change of clothes, put it by my door, and it is still by my door at home, which means today,
Are we going out to lunch like this?
you know,
I will be ripping this off of my face the second this show ends. But I'm committed to you. Let's start at the wide receiver position on the waiver wire part of the show. Let's talk about some players that we think are worth picking up. I think the world wants to know, basically, what are we doing with Juju Smith-Schuster fab-wise? How much are we spending on him? Are we blowing the waiver wire spot on Juju Smith-Schuster? There are several players in that kind of probably owned category that are worth mentioning. Ted Ginn, Marvin Jones, Sterling
Shepard, definitely. If
he's the kind of under-the-radar guy.
Would you rather have Shepard or Juju?
great question. If this is
That's all I asked.
If this is not a large keeper league, if I'm not keeping
we're
five or
talking
six
we're
guys,
talking a half-point redraft
half-point
league.
redraft league, I'm on Sterling Shepard,
All
and
right.
that's as a genuine Juju believer.
Yeah, I would agree, especially with the next week bye week for Juju, whereas Shepard comes back, he's past his bye, and he's the number one. He's the number one wide receiver easily.
If you look at
Easily.
the number one wide receiver there, and if you look at his upcoming schedule, the Los Angeles Rams they've been okay. Then San Francisco, Kansas City, Washington, Oakland, Dallas. I mean, I think Sterling Shepard is going to be a wide receiver 2 from here on out, and you just don't usually find any position 2 on the waivers.
And with Juju being on, like we said, he's on the bye week. I like the player, but
You're the most hesitant amongst us in terms of
because
value fantasy-wise.
Well, I mean, what are they going to do with Martavis Bryant? Are they going to keep him out? And to go from what I mentioned, 3 targets, 10 targets. I mean, it certainly feels like it's just one of those games where Ben just looked to go to Juju in that particular. Maybe the coverage on Antonio Brown
But this
was too tight. I don't know.
This is one of those things, Mike, where a fantasy owner has to.
I know
You have to make a
project,
choice between
certainly.
outlier and new trend. And with a rookie, I'm choosing trust in Juju being established instead of the fear. Like, I would take Juju rest of the season, believe it or not. I would take him over Will Fuller rest of the season with those touchdowns, because I think the consistency of targets and volume is going to be there for Juju more than it is for Will Fuller.
Will Fuller's touchdown track record is better than Juju's target track record. I mean,
but I still believe every player in history has returned to the mean. Will Fuller's not scoring.
Right, and that's what I.
By the
fear
way, I'm
for
giving
Juju.
him an automatic 2 touchdowns this week by saying he's not scoring.
That's what I fear for Juju is that he'll just return to the mean of getting 4 or 5 targets.
But that's not an established mean for him, is my point.
Oh,
How is that an established mean for a rookie?
I don't think it's what I see as the established mean to look for is whoever the wide receiver 2 is for Pittsburgh, because right now my belief is that Juju has overtaken Martavis Bryant in the primary number 2 wide receiver outside role. Now, all that said, usually the number 2 wide receiver for Ben Roethlisberger is okay, not great. He does not usually have 2 top 24 receivers.
Because the number 2 option is Lev Bell.
Sure. I mean, so this is one of those things where I think Juju is going to be fine, have some good games, but he is still playing with, on a team where Big Ben on the road isn't usually the most reliable, and you're going to have those games where Antonio Brown soaks up 20 targets, and he's, the number 1, 2, and 3 wide receiver.
So you're Will Fuller far and away over the
I would
Juju
rather
rest
have
of the
Will
season?
Fuller. But so a question for you, Andy. You mentioned on the show you believe that Russell Wilson is likely – he's your number 1 fantasy quarterback moving forward. So would you rather have a guy like Juju, who's the number 2 for Big Ben, who that can be okay, or you got Paul Richardson, Tyler Lockett, who if Russell Wilson is the number 1 quarterback, that means there's goodness going around to more than just Doug Baldwin. Would you rather have a guy like Paul Richardson or Lockett over Juju?
No. I would take Juju Smith-Schuster over both of those players.
Really?
Yeah, because you're playing roulette with the Seattle wide receivers. 1 week it might be Lockett, 1 week it might be Richardson, 1 week it might be Baldwin, 1 week Graham, 1 week Wilson, and whatever it might be. So if I had to start one moving forward, minus the bye week, which I would sit Juju during the bye this week.
Bold.
I don't like him that much. But yeah, I would take the shot on him. Look, I've been a very big fan of Juju Smith-Schuster. I thought the pick was great for Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin's already come out and said he's not guaranteeing any role for Martavis Bryant. We don't even know if he's going to be active in the future.
The 2 main guys we've talked about so far, Juju Smith-Schuster and Sterling Shepard, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers and for the New York Giants. How much fab are you spending if they're out there? I know those guys are taken in about half of the leagues, there in about half the leagues. So how much fab would you spend on those 2 guys?
Shepard, I would probably – I mean, it's still relative to what you have left, but I'd be trying to spend –
I'd say you need
I'd be trying to spend $20 on a $100 fab on Sterling Shepard. I'd probably spend $13-14 on Juju.
Yeah, I think those are right about where my numbers line.
Yeah.
All right, what's your favorite other wide receiver pickup this week from the rest of the crop? I mean, you had a big week from Jamison Crowder. You had, you got Robert Woods coming back and Cooper Kupp coming back from the bye week. Maybe they've been forgotten about. Maybe they're free on your waiver wire. Is there somebody that stands out to you that you're going, wow, this is more of a bargain than spending, $20 on Juju Smith-Schuster?
I think the bargain, if you want a free or a $1, $2, $3 fab buy who could be very good this week, I would lean on Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills is
even with Parker coming back.
I mean, the rapport with Matt Moore has been established. This was a very hard matchup last week against Baltimore, and he still was okay. Now you've got Oakland. I think Kenny Stills is one of those under the radar, not going to be popular, not going to be sought after, who's going to be all right. Now, I'm not necessarily saying he's my favorite of the list. I think that there's, I would just as likely play Paul Richardson this week in another great matchup, even though I agree with Andy that you just don't know who it's going to be each week. But in those weeks that look like there will be plenty to go around, then I think you can rely on a Paul Richardson. There's a lot of really playable, startable options this week, especially whenever you're coming.
So your favorite streaming is Richardson?
My favorite
is Stills. Or Stills,
I think Stills would be the guy I would attempt to get for free.
And my favorite off of this list will be, besides Shepard, but my favorite kind of like free wild card would be Robbie Anderson, who's had three very good games, is still available in the vast majority of leagues. Buffalo's a tougher matchup, but then he gets Tampa Bay. So I think that if you're in wide receiver purgatory, I think that he is absolutely worth the look. What do you guys think of?
I'm in a mask comfort purgatory right now.
What do you guys think of
on the way to hell?
What do you think of Danny Amendola? He's got the bye week, and then after the bye week, it's Denver, but then Oakland. But
I actually think he's
also
a great
coming off the
pickup.
heels of Chris Hogan's going to miss
he's
a
a
few
great
weeks.
I think Amendola, if you don't need a spot start right now, he's a great flyer pickup. I think Rex Burkhead, as we transition into running backs, is somebody that you could look at as a spot start with people missing time on the
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about running backs. Look, Alfred Morris and Darren McFadden are available in a lot of leagues, but would you rather grab a guy like Alex Collins, who we saw emerge for 18 carries, 113 yards? Would you rather just go in on Collins than try to take the shot, or do you do both? I mean, what is your perspective on, trying to play the game in Dallas versus just going after a guy like Collins or Mack,
Sure.
Marlon Mack from Indianapolis?
If for my teams, if those guys happen to be available, I will put at least a small bid. I don't mind being really aggressive, trying to get Morris or McFadden, because you're talking about potential league winners. Also monitor the news for the Zeke situation, if the appeal goes through or not. Maybe he plays another week. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with that situation? But I'm good being aggressive. Also, putting just a medium bid on there, because names like this, it's really strange, but sometimes it scares people off because they go, well, I don't have the budget to even compete to try and get one of these guys. And I see it frequently. When you go back and you check the auction budget, you're like, wait a minute. How did somebody get Alfred Morris for $12? Because everyone just decided, well, I'm kind of out. I don't have the money to do it. And then the person who just put a regular bid in pulls that player in. But I do want to be aggressive trying to get Alex Collins, gets the Titans. Jim Harbaugh said he already expects Alex Collins to get more and more opportunities.
I love Alex Collins.
It's still going to be the timeshare with Buck Allen. But Alex Collins, this past few weeks looks sensational, and they have to rely on the running game in Baltimore.
What are some other running back pickups this week that you'd be taking a look at in terms of start-worthy players?
Well, you got to go the guys from the Dolphins.
Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams, they're both worth the pickup. We already kind of talked about that situation. Matt Forte is still looming out there, and I think that he is worth the pickup. I don't know. What are you guys doing with the Patriots running backs? Andy, you mentioned Rex Burkhead. You think that he's a fine pickup, but they're on bye, and who knows? It's legitimately a four-player situation, four running back situation timeshare.
If I can answer for Andy, because I feel like I know
Please do.
his answer. James White is probably the only guy that you can rely on in a PPR league because of a certain role that's established. A baseline is there. Dion Lewis has been getting more and more and more work. He's looked great. He just hasn't been as efficient as James White has been. Burkhead,
he's the runner,
right? And Rex Burkhead was very efficient with his receptions this last week. I mean, there's plenty of good things going on. The problem is you don't know who it's going to be. They all eat into each other. So if I'm in a standard, I don't pick any of them up.
All right.
And if I'm in a PPR, I think James White is the guy that has at least a baseline you can somewhat rely on.
Do you read anything into Matt Breida's performance last week for fantasy? I mean, it was pretty limited workload.
Yeah, not really. I mean, the same thing happened just a few weeks ago. But we are it's week 9. We're in handcuff territory now as you make the preparations for your team to get into the playoff form. So if you got that's a good question. For the Jaguars, would you rather have Chris Ivory or T.J. Yeldon right now?
Oh, Ivory.
Still Ivory?
Oh, yeah.
Even after the Yeldon big game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Ivory's got that locked up.
Once Leonard Fournette is back, which he is back at practice,
of course.
T.J. Yeldon will probably be inactive again.
So James Conner for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jacquizz Rodgers if you want to go that route for Tampa Bay. And I think Austin Eckler for the Chargers is kind of a must-own handcuff at this point for Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I love it when the handcuff can catch the ball a little bit. Gives you at least some hope for them. If your main guy goes down, you're not a disaster. Jack Doyle, Vernon Davis, the big tight end watch list for me. Jack Doyle's been great.
Those baby hands are strong.
How much would you spend on him the way he's playing right now? I mean, he is putting up week after week of high target, high volume. This past week was dominant. I mean, I would be trying to make a move for Jack Doyle.
Yeah,
if I didn't have a tight end that I loved.
Yeah, if you're just streaming the tight ends and Jack Doyle happens
would you
to
rather
be
have
available.
Doyle or ASJ rest of the season? ASJ's kind of come down a little bit.
Jason,
yeah, that is tough. I think I lean Jack Doyle. ASJ he's still the target leader or one of them in New York, but his yards per reception
short stuff. I don't understand what's going on.
Pitiful. I mean, it's he had 5 receptions. Great. 28 yards. How do you do that?
I mean, in Tampa Bay, he was a big play
guy.
Yeah,
he can do that, but that's just not how they're using him. Whereas Jack Doyle, I think you have a long enough track record with this season and last season to say he can be involved and utilized. And even with Brissett, we've seen multiple games now that are very good. So if he's healthy and Brissett's healthy, I'd take Jack Doyle there.
But Vernon Davis is a must-add. He's been falling out even when Jordan Reed's on the field. So
and we know Jordan Reed's going to be gone this coming week. So
or Jay Gruden.
I know he's going to be gone.
Just
sure,
saying,
okay,
he's not ruled out.
He has not been ruled out.
Yeah.
He's not going to play.
Yeah, he's not going to play. Defenses. What defenses do you guys like to stream this week?
So the Saints, they're owned in the majority of leagues, but they get to take on the Bucs. The Cards 49ers game.
I love the Cardinals D.
I think you can play either defense.
By the way,
honestly.
CJ Beathard will start this game. It will not be Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo is not expected to debut in this game against the Cardinals, just being traded over from the Patriots. Beathard has been
bad.
Yeah,
he's
depending on your perspective, great for your defense.
Yeah, sure. So I love the Cardinals in this matchup. I think the 49ers are fine in this matchup against Drew Stanton. And then the Raiders, I mean, maybe. Do you read anything at all into the Chiefs' kind of lower performance, or was that simply just
I wouldn't
the
touch
Denver
the
Broncos?
Raiders.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't either.
Not in a million years against the Chiefs.
I don't think that they are anywhere near a good enough defense to rely on. I wouldn't touch the Raiders against anyone outside of maybe the Browns.
The Eagles at home against the Broncos looks
But the Eagles are owned in like 90% of leagues.
Sure, that's very fair. You guys want to talk some quarterbacks?
Let's do it.
Full stream ahead.
This is a Halloween special. Okay,
Spectacular.
This is costumes and scary names that will frighten you to play them in your lineup.
Halloween disclaimers.
So I'm going to get mine right out.
Get it out.
Get it
Spit
over
it
with.
out. It's like a virus.
I have a really hard
Well,
time.
Jason.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one last chance here
Please don't.
to reconsider before you spout this name out.
I need it.
All right.
I don't trust myself. But you know what I do trust? I do trust playing a quarterback, any quarterback, against the San Francisco 49ers, whose defense just got significantly worse. Their strong safety is now out, and that was one of their only decent players. I'm going to throw out Drew Stanton.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's terrible. Drew Stanton stinks. He's so bad. But we have seen him come in a few times in what are great matchups, not good matchups. He's not going to be good in a good matchup.
Right.
Only great matchups can you maybe get something good out of Drew Stanton. But the reality is this might be one of those matchups. In 2014, when he came in his second week in relief of Carson Palmer, he played another really good matchup against the San Francisco 49ers, who he's playing this week. He threw for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. Look, that's great. If you can get that, that's a great streaming option. Now, that's not his normal, but San Francisco will do their best
To make it
happen. And so I'm going to say if you are in a super deep league, everyone is hoarded, and there's just no other options, you want a glory play that feels like a Halloween special, it's Drew Stanton. Quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, if you don't know who that is.
Very bad news. I mean, Drew Stanton came out this week. He said, look, you just have to be yourself. And I was really hoping he said, you just have to be Joe Montana.
Yeah, that'd be
just being himself, that's a problem. Last week we had
just got to be yourself.
Tyrod Taylor, Josh McCown, and Andy Dalton. A good streaming week. I'm going to stay in the flames with Tyrod Taylor and play him against the Jets this week.
If he's out there, pick him up.
If you picked him up last week, just keep him on your roster. You don't have to go back to the well and stream somebody else. and fight the fab dollars, just keep Tyrod and play him.
And I'm going to throw out, he's coming off of the bye week. He's had his very surprising year, but Jared Goff, quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams, taking on the Giants, who have, aside from that one matchup against the Denver Broncos, really phoned in the football season. So I like Tyrod a lot, but he's a little bit more owned than Goff. So if Taylor is there, that's the route I would go.
Yeah, basically look for Tyrod Taylor. If he's not there, look for Goff. If he's not there, maybe look for Stanton.
Think about not playing a quarterback.
After getting some Dramamine.
What's amazing to me, and maybe this is just perfect for Halloween, is what if I had told you guys before the season that, hey, Mike, Jason, week 9, it rolls around. You're gonna choose Jared Goff, and Jason, you're gonna go with Drew Stanton for your streamers.
Oh,
Football.
No. Yeah, that's why. I mean, the quarterback position is very replaceable when you only play one. Obviously, very different in 2 quarterback leagues, but any of those 1Z positions, they're just you can play them off the wire.
All right, without further ado.
I want to play a game.
Halloween!
All right. More news, by the way. Jason Lockenforth says the Redskins are trying hard to land a wide receiver before the deadline. They still don't have one on the roster, right? Is that correct?
Hey, Crowder had a decent game.
That's true. That's true. What is he, like the wide receiver 60 on the year?
Yeah.
That's all they need. They need one more wide receiver to add to the mix to where we need to spread the ball so thin that you see nothing but bread. There's nothing on this bread.
I don't understand any of that analogy, but I can't
don't either.
I can't hear it
So it's okay.
because I am stuffed inside of a leather mask. Trick or treat. We're playing trick or treat. So will these players be a trick or a treat come fantasy playoff time? So which player?
So these are good players.
These are great players.
You like right now, and we're saying,
Trick or treat for fantasy playoff time with the matchups.
oh, all right.
You know,
like
are
it.
they going to have, they've been great, but can you count on them when it counts? So Russell Wilson has been great. He's second in fantasy in terms of points per game and 4-point passing touchdown leagues. Looking at his schedule, what do you think about Russell Wilson?
Look, week 14, which is most leagues' first playoff week, he runs up against the number 1 pass defense in the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have shut down just about everybody. Their defense is getting better. I am going to call Russell Wilson a treat, not a trick, because there are some quarterbacks, and Russell Wilson to me is one of them, that you are not going to overreact on the matchup. You're not going to say you can't play him in that week because they've been shutting people down. His ability to scramble, the fact that they just got a new left tackle, that I don't think we brought that up in the trades,
right,
but
yeah,
they
we
traded for Dwayne Brown from the Houston Texans. Great tackle. That should improve their offensive line. I believe that the offense is good enough and Russell Wilson is good enough to get it done. Now, I'm not saying that in that week he's going to be awesome and spectacular, but he also gets to play Dallas in the championship week. He gets to play, if your playoffs start earlier, it's not. I feel like Jacksonville is his only oh no game, and it is week 1 of the playoffs, which stinks. But don't overreact.
If you have Russell Wilson as your quarterback for the rest of the way, you better be hoping you get that first round bye. I disagree with Jason.
I think
Russell Wilson in the first round of the playoffs against Jacksonville is a full-on smell my feet
trick.
Yes.
Interesting.
All right, tiebreaker, Andy.
I don't think I just said he's my number 1 rest of the season. I think you're gonna play him.
Yeah, that's the thing is when you have Russell Wilson, you are playing him.
Look at the matchup that just took place in Seattle. How many people sat Deshaun Watson? I think Russell Wilson's in the category of he's going to make something happen. They cannot run the ball.
It's in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking the West Coast team flies over to the East Coast.
So you make a move right now with Russell Wilson then?
No, I'm riding him out. I'm going to get to the playoffs with him.
And I also
get that bye
think
week.
if there's a trick or treat, and you look at the Jaguars' pass defense, which all credit due, the personnel is great. they still have not played that many good quarterbacks. I mean, you're talking Jacoby Brissett, Jared Goff, Ben Roethlisberger, easily the best, Josh McCown.
Josh McCown's been good this year.
Flacco. Sure, he's been good, but I'm saying, they're a great D. It's not like they're shutting down Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. Let's see him do it against Russell.
Kirk Cousins, maybe with or without another passing option by day's end. Right now he's 7th in fantasy points per game in 4-point leagues. His playoff schedule is the Chargers, the Cardinals, and Denver in championship week.
Ooh.
You cannot like that. If you have Kirk Cousins, I call that a trick.
Yeah,
I think he's a very matchup-dependent quarterback despite his numbers, and I don't really want to line him up against those guys.
I can definitely agree that's with the Chargers, with the sandwich of you got some delicious meats in the middle of that sandwich against Arizona, but with the Chargers and Denver being the bread, that's a tricky sandwich.
Yeah,
it's certainly a tricky sandwich.
Yeah, I'm not calling Kirk Cousins a treat here. He's a trick. He's a trickster.
Also has Seattle, Minnesota the next 2 weeks. So if there's a time to move him at that 7th
get
rank,
rid of him.
Right now would be the time to move him, get somebody with a better playoff schedule.
All right, we're in agreement there.
Very frightening character just walked on scene.
The judge agreed.
You see how I said that? On scene. I'm in a movie right now. And I'm playing the part of a marshmallow stuffed inside of a leather jacket.
Jerick McKinnon, running back, Minnesota Vikings. He's on bye this week, but he's been sensational. A top 5 running back in half point 3 of the last 4 weeks. However, Carolina, Cincinnati, but championship week he gets the Green Bay Packers.
So the first 2 weeks of the playoffs are very difficult matchups. Carolina's 4th against the run right now. Cincinnati, they're 13th, but I think they're even better than that ranking.
Right.
Those are 2 tough defenses.
Treat.
I am 100% going treat.
Pass catching ability makes him a treat.
Yeah, he's kind of matchup proof with the fact that he can come out. He may get 9, 10, 11 carries, may not be hyper efficient, but he's just putting up the receiving numbers right now, and the offense is better with him.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes for those pass catching receivers, tough matchups against good teams are actually when they can be more valuable, when they're more necessary, and the team can't just run Latavius Murray up the middle over and over to steal points away from McKinnon. So don't get tricked with this treat.
Great trade target. He's on a bye week. If you're sitting pretty and there's another team that needs a running back to play, go get Jerick McKinnon, give him somebody to play this week.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
You can go for it. Doug Martin, Detroit, Atlanta, Carolina during his playoff weeks.
Oh,
Trick or treat, Mike.
Mike, last year you traded for Doug Martin because of his juicy playoff
because he was
schedule.
supposed to be a treat.
And he tricked.
And the treat was sour.
He tricked
Except
you.
I like sour treats, so the treat was
rotten.
Lemon. You don't like lemon treats, do you?
I like lemon candy, just not lemon cookies.
Made by my wife.
Yeah, it's fair. It doesn't matter who makes lemon cookies; they're garbage. You got it. I assume he's a treat, but looking at the consistency of Doug Martin is very interesting. As he came in, he went 8, 14, 24, 27.
That's
those are
fantasy
his
finishes.
His
Those
ranking.
yes, thank you. Those
finishes the 8th running back, then the 14th running back, then the 24th.
If these
running
trends
back.
continue, he'll be in the 50s by then.
I believe for running backs, basically having all of your weeks as an RB2, I guess he was slightly outside of it this week, is absolutely fine. I'm going to call him a treat. I am not worried about his playoff schedule of Detroit, Atlanta, and then Carolina in the championship game.
It's unfortunate, but you got to ride it out.
Yeah. I'm going to say Doug Martin's a treat. And
Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
First in points per game right now at the running back position. Is he a trick or treat, though, with Philly, Seattle, Tennessee to finish the year? That is tricky to determine.
Yes, Mr. Todd Gurley. I want to hear your opinion on this.
Well, he's certainly a delicious candy, but I'm worried about opening that wrapper and finding something expired with Philadelphia, Seattle, and Tennessee. However, I am going to say treat. You don't trade away or freak out.
Well, we're not saying to trade him away.
About the number 1 running back. I think he's going to be okay because he has the same pass-catching acumen, involvement, opportunity. But are you going to get a top 5 performance in those first 2 weeks? It seems very unlikely.
He at home against Seattle was the 49th running back on the week in that particular matchup.
Now, we did not discuss the definition of a trick or treat. So I guess you could say trick if you're expecting top 5.
Yeah, it's relative to the player.
Okay.
Is he going to let you down for who he is? And I definitely think I've said this from the get-go that his schedule was great to start the year, but it's not going to be great towards the end. And you've got Houston coming up, Minnesota coming up, and then in the playoffs, Philly, Seattle. Those are 2 of the teams I'd like to run against the least. I am saying that he's going to be a trick, and that this opening schedule where he was the 6th running back, the 3rd running back, the 1st, the 2nd, it's not going to last this entire season. Now, again, like Mike said, that doesn't mean you trade the guy. He is a workhorse back, and those are rare. You hold on to him. He's still going to help your team. But you have got to make sure that you're not thinking he's winning you those weeks the way that he has been so far this year. It's not going to happen. He's a trick.
All right. Trick or treat real quick here at the wide receiver position before we close the show out. Let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins. He is first in points per game right now. He plays a wonderful matchup against San Francisco in his first playoff week, but then Jacksonville and Pittsburgh.
What is going on with all these superstars in the crap fantasy playoff matchups?
Yeah, that's not good.
Get it together, Goodell.
It's actually Hopkins is second in points per game because Will Fuller is first.
Oh!
But
he has not played enough to qualify in my ranking.
Okay. It's only
Swear to me.
Only 4 games, but number 1 and 2.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah,
Will Fuller could
Hopkins,
do nothing and be first.
What are you
going to
do in that situation with Jacksonville, Pittsburgh? I guess you do what you did against Seattle,
Yeah.
and you play him.
there's
so
no
treat.
You grab a blanket, you sit on the couch, you hold the blanket up over your face so just your eyes can peek out like you're terrified watching a super scary movie. Ooh, or
you don't even. Yeah,
I can do that with my cape.
Or
you can do that without the cape. You're already can barely see.
I mean, at this point, I believe in Watson and I believe in the Houston Texans offense enough that I'm not going to freak out about these matchups, even though they're really bad.
Yeah, I think we all agree there. There's just no way that you can say after what Watson and Hopkins and Fuller did in Seattle that there's just no way after that performance you could say, well, he's got Jacksonville coming up in the playoffs. You got to sit him.
Here's a little tip. Here's a little tip for Andy Dalton. Go watch that game. Go watch Deshaun Watson and what he does. What he does is he takes the ball and he puts it in his right arm and then he throws it towards his best players. It's one of the most incredible coaching tips I've ever heard and relied upon in my time as a professional flag football quarterback. Throw it at your best players.
Is that why I never got targets?
That is correct.
Yeah.
The one time I threw it to you, Mike, you broke your thumb.
That's true.
Hey, to be fair, that was in warm-ups.
To be fair, that was in warm-ups. Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper.
Oh.
Trick or treat?
Yum, num, 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 num.
Delicious.
Delicious.
Does that mean, you're
Is that the full-size candy bar?
Yeah. You have struck gold. You rung the doorbell, and they came out and they said.
Now, why is that?
Because he gets to play the Kansas City Chiefs.
31st against the position.
Which, if you had the concern, look, we've talked about Derek Carr in division. However, Derek Carr was able to put on his big boy pants and dominate the Chiefs last time. Then he gets Dallas. Then he gets the Philadelphia Eagles secondary. I think this looks very good.
Yeah,
for both Crabtree and Cooper.
You want to bring the pillowcase out when you go trick or treating with.
There's no time for the plastic jack-o'-lantern bucket. You need to fill it up.
You got to get a lot of candy in there. I agree. Michael Crabtree and Cooper are going to be a treat this fantasy playoff season.
Ed Werder is talking about the fact that DeMarco Murray has heard rumblings that he could be traded.
Ooh. Oh, no.
Zeke is suspended.
No.
Let's do it. Make it happen.
That would be a Derrick Henry situation to monitor right there. Did you guys get into the
These are
fact he
just-
plays Dallas and Philadelphia? Crabtree and Cooper
Yes,
do?
yeah,
Okay.
we got into the giant
last
pillowcase.
one, guys. Keenan Allen, trick or treat. Right now, he's outside the top 24 in points per game.
He's been tricking you lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has. He's been, 46th?
Is this now,
30th?
Before we get into just the playoff schedule, is Keenan Allen doing what we talk about a lot of times? Players that come out and stink week 1 and week 2, that you just project that and you roll with that the rest of the season no matter what they do, or vice versa. They come out and they're on fire week 1 and 2, and you just keep relying on them even though they really have disappointed. Week 1, Keenan Allen was, the 19th best wide receiver.
Against Denver.
Then week 2, he was the 13th best wide receiver. Looked great. Since then, he's only had one top 24 performance, weeks 3 through 8.
Yeah, that's rough.
So, what is Keenan Allen? And
He's a wide receiver 3.
It's hard to argue against that.
It
at this
is.
point.
Now, his playoff schedule is, in my opinion, better than anybody we've talked about. Washington does not scare me. Kansas City has been great. New York Jets. And if you're one of those leagues where your playoffs start a week earlier, week 13, you can add Cleveland into that mix. So he's got this juicy schedule.
40th against Oakland when he played them. New England, he was 30th. He had his best games against Denver and Philadelphia. Maybe we're looking for hard matchups for Keenan Allen, not easy ones.
Because he's got some easy ones.
Yeah, I don't feel very – am I going to play him as a flex? Maybe, but I'm not super confident in him. The thing with Keenan Allen is you had to try to take his performances in the past and say he's going to be the exact same player in the exact same offense. This offense has changed. It leans heavier on the run as opposed to the kind of peppering of targets he used to receive. You have Mike Williams there now. You have Travis Benjamin wasn't even there when Keenan Allen had his monster year. This is the new normal. You need to just accept Keenan Allen as the new normal and not project or hope for him to be what he was 2.5 years ago. That's my opinion on Keenan Allen. But what do I know? I live in a cave.
Do you agree, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with the usage, and I think that him as a that low end 2-3, that's where he is right now. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't completely agree with you got to bury him because he's had 3 fantastic weeks. Now, for fantasy purposes, you want more than 3 at this point of the season, but I'm not going to throw Keenan Allen away. But bye week, then Jacksonville coming out of the bye and on the road against Jacksonville. Next couple weeks, you don't really want Keenan Allen.
All right, guys, I got to come up for air. You got anything else you want to talk about?
Can we talk?
I got some candy to go eat.
I was going to just keep talking about how Andy looks in his suit.
I don't want to talk about that.
It's a human s'more.
This is a moment of truth. Year of health begins now. I am a hamburger bun stuffed inside of a very, very small
straw.
Draft.com/ballers. Check it out. Goodbye.
inside of a straw. That's how it
Thank you
feels.
for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.